Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're back again, Fitzy.
Yep.
We're not sick of each other just yet. Although
Close.
we might be after if we keep getting very bad Supercoach rounds, which has happened to us this weekend. So we'll get straight into it, Fitzy.
Yep.
I scored 21-49, which was a bit of carnage, having guys like McKenzie and Vandenberg just score very low. I didn't have Loney on the field, thank God.
Yeah, that could have been pretty bad.
But a few people had Loney on the field. I see you've got Nathan Brown on the field as well, which just shows how much carnage there's been, especially this week as well. So no Paddy Cripps, late withdrawal, and Jesse Hogan was also a late out. So a few people probably still had them
Yes, I'd say
in their
so.
team. So there would have been a few donuts, but I'm pretty happy with 21-49. I'm still around that 8,000 rank. So but hopefully this week it gets a bit better.
I think it will, and it was pretty much just the Saturday because there were actually some decent scores on Sunday. I think a few teams probably picked up some points through the Sunday games, but it was the Saturday late outs. It always seems as though the late outs are always Supercoach relevant players. Like it's never bloody Paul Duffield or someone, but it's all these Supercoach relevant players. He was the sub, yeah. So I went 2104, so a bit less than you. My overall rank's 6,000 now, so slowly going the wrong way. But I'm pretty happy with that considering who I had out, Gracie. I already started with no Simpson, Sard or Lewis. Brown scored 27, Smith scored 16, Vandenberg 37, and McKenzie came in with 30 for Cripps. So considering all that, it's not too bad, I don't think. So I get a few players back this week.
Yep.
Hopefully start moving in the right direction.
You like me, you had Cracker 104 on the bench.
I did.
Instead of Clark.
And I had him emergency over Loney, thankfully. But I think he actually looked pretty good on Sunday night.
Probably the only Port player that did, apart from Robbie Gray.
Pretty much. So I'm going to start playing him on the field. But the trays I did last week, I jumped on Goddard. He did really well. And I can't remember who else I tried. Oh, and McKenzie. So I've now got the link with him and Sard, which helps because I put Sard on the bench in the midfield, I think. But that was the plan anyway. But there's a lot of carnage this round. So if you've made it through, good luck. Well done. You've probably done a lot better than we have.
Especially for those people who somehow had Pritis captain.
I played a guy who had Pritis captain. Stewie, he probably watches the video. He had Pritis captain. He had Elliot Yeo. And he had Parker all on Saturday night.
Yippee-I-O.
Yeah, yippee-I-O. So my weekend was finished on Saturday night. But my mum traded in Pritis too into Mum's team. So she had a massive round. I should have made Mumford captain. He's coming into a little bit of form. I'll put the vice captain on him now. There we go. Mumford vice captain this week.
He's up against Sauce this week.
He'll smash him. Well, Mumford hasn't been getting a lot of touches, but he's been getting a lot of hit outs. So a few of them going to advantage.
Yep.
So it wasn't a great week, Gracie. It's sort of Friday night was okay. Saturday got pretty bad, but Sunday a few good scores came through. But
we'll get straight into it, Fitzy.
Let's have a look.
Your boys, the Roo boys, they almost
Ooh.
lost it.
No,
almost.
Never in doubt, Gracie.
This game and the Richmond Collingwood game were really the only one. Well, there's probably 3 games for the whole weekend that were close. The rest were sort of blowouts towards the end. So. Just the usual suspects for the Bombers. Heppel 121, Goddard 114, Hurley 113, Fletch turned up again. Mind you, nice. Fletcher is averaging 91.
Yeah.
Or 92 in Supercoach at the moment.
He's probably doing the same thing as McDonald and Rance because I read somewhere that they're really they're giving a lot of extra points for intercept marks this year. So what's his name? Fletcher probably had quite a few of those on the weekend, so that's probably what bumped his score up a little bit.
And then obviously for the Roo boys, Petrie turned up, same as Zeeble, Hanson and Cunnington, Gibson as well. So just sort of the usual suspects. Swallow almost did, got 90, Harvey 99, Goldstein 98, a little bit quiet this week. He only had the 8 touches there by the looks of that. So,
very quiet week for Goldstein because I had the vice captain on him. I think a lot of people did. Going up against Bell Chambers, who he had 8 touches and 16 hit outs. So Belly didn't do that well either. So just not a very good game for Ruckman apparently.
Robbie Tarrant got another 78. So
3 78s in a row.
He's going to keep going up in price. So if you can pull out a ton this week against Freo, it'd be very handy. So
I think most people now have probably got like him and Clark and Cracker sort of rotating those last 1 or 2 forward spots. So you're probably right just to leave that until the buys because those 3 guys aren't rookies. Don't forget they're all seasoned players. So I think they're right to keep in there as long as you can.
So move on to the next one, Fitzy. Crows and Saints. The Saints got out pretty early, and then this is when the carnage happened. Loney got knocked out early.
Boom.
Rewalt went to hospital. Brody
Ran to
Smith
my boy.
went. And
Ran to
then
my
Yench did his knee just
Terrible.
after half time, I think it was.
Shocking.
So this was... and there was also, at one stage when I was watching it, Fitzy, there was 9 50-metre penalties.
Wow.
This was just before three-quarter time.
Wow.
So, yeah, there was a lot of... this game was, just...
That's not good.
No, it's not.
Terrible.
So,
This is where
mind you, Fitzy, I've got a question for you. Eddie
Yeah?
Betts is probably in the career best form. He's second in the Coleman. He's averaging 110 in Supercoach.
I know.
Is he worth it?
I'm going to say no, because there's a lot of other good options that'll probably average about the same as him by the end of the year. He's having a bloody good run at it, though. Look at some of these
154, 92, 88, 72, and then 2 113s, and then he got 134 on the weekend. So he's not too bad.
He's in good form. I don't know who can match up on him. You know, I mean, they've got a couple of tough games coming up the next couple of weeks, GWS and Fremantle, but I'd probably hold off when you've got guys like Buddy's cheap, and you've obviously got Swan, Gray, and all these guys that'll probably be better than him. But if you've got a lot of the sort of standard picks, and I was thinking about this myself, because our forward lines arguably are probably pretty common. Like I've got Goddard, Bontempelli, and these guys. It's not the worst idea to pick up a guy like Betts or maybe Devon Smith or someone as a point of difference for your last forward, but I wouldn't be getting him in like as your fourth forward. But maybe if you've filled up, you've got 5 there, you may be looking for a point of difference. He might be too expensive now. I'm not sure at his price, but geez, he's in some good form. I think he's locked for all Australian. So
so obviously Betts there with 134, Dangerfield 116 in the absence of Sloane. Scotty Thompson Fitzy's winding back the clock. He's averaging 121 at the moment. Sauce Jacobs pulled out another big one, probably helped with his 17 disposals there. So, and Jake Kelly 91 there
not
as
bad.
well. Tex Walker 113. So, the guy that's on the bubble this week is Jake Lever. Scored 38, so be wary. Look, he's probably, at the moment, he's probably still a bring-in option if you're looking at maybe downgrading Oxley, who is pretty much maxed out. So it's a good bit of money to make. There's about 240k to make out of that trade. So I'd still be leaning towards doing it if Sard comes back this week, because he's only going to just sit there and be a backup emergency anyway. So keep an eye out to see if Sard's back in this week. But then the Saints, Josh Bruce, he's only scoring big when he kicks bags of goals, so
which he did.
Just the usual full forward. Armitage is still on fire. He'd be up there, I reckon, for all Australian as well.
He'd be close. I think he'd be on the bench right now.
Yeah, people who have had Nunes, he's paid us back in the last couple of weeks. Fitzy at 87 and then a 95, so he did quite well. He actually had 4 shots at goal.
Did he?
1 goal, 2 and 1 out in the full, so he got forward a bit on the weekend, so hopefully he can keep that going. So
that's probably what you've been asking for, though. Like, what do you get? 22, 23 touches, a few marks, a few tackles, and he kicks the odd goal as well. So he just has to keep his efficiency up. That's what's killed him in a few of those games, is he just pushes the ball. So you'd be pleased with him in your team now, I think. Yeah,
definitely. So, but other than that, that's pretty much about it.
Pretty sad game. Now, Loney, we'll probably talk trades more next video on
later
Thursday.
In the week,
Loney might be one we have to consider trading out, because his break-even's bumped up just over 100. So he might be one we'll chat about. But Smith's one to keep your eye on, Gracie. I've sadly had him since round 2. But I'm glad that he's not playing this week, because good God, he needs the week off to recover and come back to some early season form.
Well, Fitzy, this was the game that everyone thought that Melbourne might be able to challenge Hawthorn, and we got shown why Hawthorn are back-to-back premiers. So Ruffy, he kicked 4, got 145. Shields 121. He's back in the team now. So and Mitchell, obviously with Lewis out, you got a 128 from Mitchell. Gunston almost turned up. Burgoyne, Rioli. Hartung did quite well.
Wow.
121.
100% efficiency.
Yeah, he was very effective.
Wow.
I watched bits and pieces of the game, and he was very, very efficient. Used the ball quite well. So Birchall 88. So other than that, but for the D's, obviously Tom McDonald. Fitzy's just in all Australian fullback form.
Yes.
He's probably too expensive to bring in now. I think you're going to have to wait that he has a couple of 70 games if he can have a couple of 70 games, he might drift back down to 500, just under 500k. And
I can't work out where his scoring's coming from. Honestly, like I said before, the intercept marks, maybe.
Although, 22 disposals, 9 marks at 81% efficiency.
7 contested possessions. But I just can't work how he goes 85 Dream Team and 124 Supercoach. I mean,
I think the intercept marks would be a big issue.
It'd have to. I didn't watch the game, mind you. I haven't seen a single piece of footage from it. But he must have got a few intercept marks down there. Yeah. But the question's going to be, do you pay that much for him and is he going to keep it up? And I
think you just wait.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe
especially
wait
when you got guys like Brodie Smith, who's down to 365 now, and if you wanted to do Oxley, like if Smith was going to play this week, you could do Oxley to Smith and you'd make money. So you'd be silly to spend money to get Tom McDonald when you could get Brodie Smith, who we know is a proven from last year. So Smith will get back to his best once he comes back. So a week off will do him the world of good.
Yeah.
So
my theory I was just going to say there is to try and avoid some of the key defenders, because we've seen Hooker last year, Rance is... he's been pretty good this year as well. McDonald's up there. I mean, unless they might have changed something with the scoring, but I've always gone after your Shaws, and Hooley's one I'm looking at the moment. Those sorts of guys that are going to get a lot of touches. Yep. So the key defenders, maybe we need to rethink our strategies with those guys.
I think so. Another bloke that needs a rest, Fitzy, is Vandenberg. He looks on the weekend, and they pointed it out during the commentary. When he's running, he looks like he's just up and down. There's no spring in his step. So I think a bit of fatigue might be setting in for Vandenberg, and would not be surprised if he didn't play this week. So.
Yeah, I'm going to do what I can to try and keep him, because he's obviously a downgrade option for this week, but I might try and hang on to him just because he's got that round 13 bye, so he can cover 11, 12 and then get traded then. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see for teams, because he could be due for a rest. But one guy who is going to have to go is Christian Salem, Gracie. They've said he's a 2 to 3 week injury. So if you didn't trade him last week before he turned up, then you might have to go now.
He still went up. So
he did. And what about old mate Lumumba? He only had the 11 disposals. Didn't do too much by the looks of it.
Yeah.
Do you hang on to him, or do you just wait?
I think it might be the old Lumumba to a lever or someone like that, or if you've got the cash, upgrade him to someone.
Yep. I don't mind the idea of Lumumba down to lever, because he has, I don't know what his price is now, but he'll be under 400k, I'm sure. So make a little bit of money out of him, just cut your losses and move on. It might be time to say goodbye to Heretia.
And this game, Fitzy, I put the VC on Dylan Shield, and I said to you earlier that Shield had about 6 touches in the first 5 minutes, and I went to work and then come back and noticed he only just scored a ton from 30 disposals.
Had a lot of the ball.
He had 3 behinds. Probably the 73% efficiency didn't help.
Only 4 contested possessions.
4 contested possessions as well. So, but look, he's still racking up the possessions, and 100. I'll still take 100. If he's going to have a quiet game and it's 100, I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, he's the one to own over Ward, I reckon, at this stage of the year. I think Ward got tagged out by Carazzo, and he didn't really do much until he got a bit of junk time stats there in the second half, but not good.
But for the Blues, only the 1 ton Fitzy, and somehow it was Andres Everett.
Righto.
So that's all we need to speak about. Carlton, GWS, Treloar 139, Mumford 138, as we said, Shield 102. Caniglio 128, Scully 102, Shaw 118, Fitzy, who's been in awesome form this year. He is almost all Australian as well, I think.
I'd probably put him in that category. I reckon there's a lot of those guys.
He'd be on the fringe of being on the bench, that bench group, I think.
There's a lot of small defenders that'll be in that group this year. But just the way how the season plays out, but he's getting a lot of the ball. He's really using it well.
And Jeremy Cameron, 103, did kick 5 goals, so he seems to be scoring big when he kicks bags of goals. So it's going to be interesting, Fitzy, when they get John O'Patton back, how that affects McCarthy and Cameron. So I see Griffin got injured, Fitzy.
He did. I think he did a knee or an ankle or a hammy. Or
I think it was a hammy, wasn't it? Or was I incorrect?
Yeah, knee it was.
Knee
so
soreness.
He wasn't really doing that much. He got subbed off in the third quarter, and he was only on, 53 Supercoach. I don't think he was really doing that much at that stage of the game, but I think if you've still got him, then you need to get rid of him. I think there's enough cheap options in the midfield. You just go to Rockcliffe, and you'd probably downgrade him to Rockcliffe. You'd get someone like Stevie J or Selwood in. I'd be cutting your losses on him too, I think. Even though at this stage we're trying to upgrade the teams, you probably can't really carry a guy like him, particularly if he doesn't play this week. But clearly it hasn't quite worked out how they wanted, but Shields stepped up, read out a few of those names before. All the young guys are stepping up, so I think he's probably
another one to keep an eye on. Fitzy is Devon Smith, scored 53. He has a high break even this week. Possibly he'll decrease in price. If he gets to around the 440, 450 mark, I'd almost jump on him as a bit of point of difference because not everyone's going to have him being in at GWS. You know, they're still a developing side, so but he can have those big games.
I think so too. I really like him personally, and like I sort of touched on before, everyone's got Swan, Martin, Gray, Bont, these guys. Pick a Devon Smith or an Eddie Betts as a unique player. I think there's nothing wrong with doing that. Dalhouse is another one. He's looking pretty good. Pav is another one again. I reckon pick one or two of these sorts of guys, just have that X factor and the bit of a difference, particularly if you're going for league wins, because everyone's going to have the same 4 or 5 forwards. So get someone unique at the end. So I reckon when he dips down, I might look at jumping on. I think he had a really ineffective first half. I did watch a little bit of it, and I reckon at half time his disposal efficiency was about 25% or something like that. So that sort of got him off on the wrong foot. But yeah, definitely consider him. I reckon if he drops under 500k.
Right, on to the next game, Fitzy. My boys didn't go quite well. No. The first half was a good game of footy, apparently. We're in front at half time, and then Sydney kicked 10 goals to 2. So just shows that they're a cut above the rest and up there with Hawthorn as being the premiership favourites. Obviously, Lukey Parker, Fitzy, we spoke about him last week.
We did.
If you did get him last week, well done, because he's back in form. 31 disposals, 5 goals, 31 points for 31 disposals.
Not a bad effort.
People that jumped on Tom Mitchell, another 128, so he went up about 60,000. I was tossing up between Mitchell and Stevie J, Fitzy, as we had about 75 million discussions about it.
Yeah, we did.
I went with Stevie J just because he's proven. Mitchell did outscore him, but I think in the long run, Stevie J is probably going to play more games than Mitchell.
I still
especially
think so.
when Swans have a full list to pick from. So
and Mitchell kicked all 3 of his goals in the last quarter, didn't he? I think so. Sort of a few junk time stats. I still think Mitchell's even still an option this week if you've got him, but I think Steve Johnson over him last week. Probably that's where I would have been leaning to. I'd say so.
But just the usuals. Kennedy 122, as we said. Mitchell 128. McGlynn 120. Buddy 4 goals 5. If he could kick straight, he would have cracked the double ton. 111 for Hanbury, McVeigh, Jack, and Grundy all tonned up. Fitzy, so all the usual guys that we expect as well. So for the Cats, Thurlow, Fitzy's up, averaging 93, I think, at the moment, or something.
Sounds
like
about right.
something ridiculous like that. So he's, I think he's going to be the next sort of Corey Enright. Once Enright retires, he's going to take that role across half back. So Stevie J got 110. He's got a very low break even this week. I think it's 26 or something like that. So if you
still
get him,
not too late.
I'd still jump on him this week if you game enough. He did get off at the match review panel, so he is safe for this week to face Carlton, and they are playing Carlton, so anything could happen. Stevie J could have 40 and kick 5, so
or he could get tagged by Carazzo and do nothing.
Could.
But I think that's going to go to Selwood.
Yeah, he'll go to Selwood. So. And another big one, Fitzy's. A few people may have jumped on Mitch Duncan because he had a ripper start to the year. He's out for 10 to 12 weeks, unfortunately, for the young bloke. He's cracked a bone in his foot, so which is sad because he was having a really good year. So, but other than that, Fitzy wasn't too much. No. Harry Taylor, I think, got where is he? Got 68, so he's a bit quiet. Blissarv's almost turned up again though. Fitzy 94, so. If you had him, you'd still be pretty happy with that. So
I'd like to know what's going on with Selwood, Gracie, because I really want to get him in, but
he obviously got tagged.
I keep putting it off for a week, just because he's not gonna. Well, he's not showing the form yet, but I think he's the sort of guy he has to come good. He will come good.
It's like Rockcliffe. Rockcliffe will come good,
but Selwood's just been out of form, not injured, and almost dying.
Yeah, but Rockcliffe's played 2 games and scored 100 yet.
Yeah, to be fair, he did go at 52%. So if his disposal efficiency was even 20% more, he would have probably turned up there.
Oh, so. Yeah, he would have got probably 110 from 19 disposals. And geez, if he does that, imagine when he gets 30. So
keep an eye on him next week, but he's one to keep in mind for the next few weeks. But
another
Gold Coast Suns,
exciting game, Fitzy. That's actually an interesting stat. This was on the bounce last night at 8:48 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday night. So in Victoria. The score between West Coast and Gold Coast was 48-8.
Wow. That's really sad.
That's a random fact.
That's just a random fact.
It was on the bounce last night, so thanks to the bounce, I was watching it last night.
The more you know.
But obviously, Fitzy, the big talking point was Matt Pritis, Brownlow medalist, 39 disposals, 2 goals, 11 contested. Imagine if he went at 100% efficiency, he would have scored nearly 300, I reckon. At 196, dominated the game. Yippee-I-Yo scored 146. Marston 134. Shuey 104. Hearn 119. That's really about it, Fitzy.
Pretty much, yeah.
For those guys. People who have Natanui, I'd be very worried because he's not really dominating games.
No.
And these ruck changes for the points has really hurt Natanui.
And the fact that they're trying to play Callum Sinclair, who's taken a good chunk of his ruck time. So I reckon I'd still wait a bit longer and just wait and see how they structure the team, because they might be waiting until Natanui's full fitness and then they'll drop the second ruckman and keep him going.
Yep.
Because he is still averaging probably around 85, maybe 80 or so. So a trade to a Marich or a Mumford isn't going to gain you a ton of points, but maybe just hold tight for now and just see how the team structure goes around the bye rounds when he's back to full fitness. But Elliot Yo, or Yippee-I-Yo, whatever you're calling him, he's an interesting case because he's been playing midfield the last sort of month or so, a bit like Liam Picken. He started the year really crap, but the last 4 weeks he's been awesome. So keep an eye on him. Maybe when Scott Selwood and a few of these guys come back in, he might not play as much midfield, but at the current form, I mean, he's one to keep an eye on in defence. So
Monty was obviously having a good time at this game.
Yeah,
Material with some more smelly waste products.
Yeah, I know. Pro Monty on Fan Footy. We support his website. He's a good friend of ours. And just moving along to the Gold Coast, Gracie, there's a few decent scores, but nothing really to write home about. Pro Riscatelli's leading from the front. He got 116. Prestia got another ton. He's been pretty consistent. Hallahan was a late inclusion. I don't know why they dropped him. I said that last week. I don't know why they
had 24 touches, 11 tackles.
22 contested possessions out of 24. That's massive. So,
but look at the efficiency. Like Riscatelli, 50. Hallahan, 50. Like, imagine if these guys went at 80. Like, they would have fucking got 180.
I know Bennell went at 43 and he got injured as well. So, things are not looking too good for the Gold Coast, but they should get a few players back this week.
Took Miller, though.
Yeah, Miller
he went at 57% and scored 98 from 21 touches. So.
I don't know how we did that.
He had 11
tackles,
11 contested possessions.
Yeah. So he's been excellent. I think he's pushing 350k now. So
still got a very low break even.
He does. So hang on to him as long as you can. But hopefully the Adam Sard will come back in for the Gold Coast. Anyway, I don't care about anyone else, but he'd be a welcome addition to my team again. Sadly. All right, let's have a look at some Sunday games, Gracie.
I was very shattered. I was out having a hit of golf, local golf course, Fitzy, and I was just keeping updated on this game, and I saw that the scores were level, and it was 5 minutes to go, and we watched the game. The Doggies had their chances. They got it up in their forward line a couple of times, but just couldn't hold possession. And Freo, as they do, they hurt them on the rebound and kicked a couple of quick late goals. So. Obviously, Fife had a ripper game. Fitzy was on about 114 at half time. Something like that. He scored 32 in the second half. No, he was on 88 at half time, sorry.
Yeah.
Scored, 58 in the second half.
Yeah.
So,
he sort of faded out.
Did get reported, but he's been fined, so he's right for this week. Michael Johnson, Fitzy, Pearce, Lockie Neal, Sandy's turned up again, Fitzy. Michael Walters turned up as well, so...
a few good scores there.
Yeah,
for
Pav
the
was a bit.
boys.
Pav kicked 5 goals too, Fitzy. He only got 91 from 17 disposals and 9 marks. That's a very low score.
Pav tends to do that sometimes. I reckon if you look through his stats, I remember last year when we had him, he come out, kicked 4 goals, and he only scores 80 Supercoach. So he does have that tendency. I don't know how, but he looks very, very good again. So if you're looking for that point of difference we keep talking about, he's one to consider. But
and see for the Doggies there, Fitzy, your mate Tory Dixon kicked 7.
Oh, for goodness sake. The guy who had Pritis also has Tory Dixon. Look, that's Tory Dixon, and he kicked 7 goals. For goodness sake.
He did only score 107, though.
He did. He kicked like 4 of those goals in one quarter. I think he kicked 4 of them in the last quarter. Yeah. Rightio. But Liam Pickens, one I want to ask your opinion on, Gracie, because he played midfield again. Had, 21 touches, 98 Supercoach points. His last month has been superb. Yep. Are we prepared to grab him, or are we still worried about his role changing?
Yep. They've still got young kids that they'll put through that midfield. So you've still got McRae played in the VFL on the weekend. So he's still to come back in that midfield. So I'd still expect Picken. He'll still get plenty of the ball, but I reckon he'll be just a bit too inconsistent, especially when you've got other guys like your Rocklifts and.
Well, he's a defender.
He is too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, if you're struggling for defenders, it could be a possibility, but. I'd still steer clear, especially when you got Smith at 365. I'd rather get Smith.
If I was going to get picking, I'd rather spend an extra 30 grand to get Basher Hooley, if you ask me. He's got the ceiling as well, so I don't know. I'm still a bit cautious about him. He's not a young guy breaking out. He's 28 years old. He's just having a good season because of his role. So I don't know if he'll be able to keep it up for the whole season, especially when he's facing Big Monday and these sorts of guys in the midfield getting bashed around. I mean, look, we might sit here in a month's time wish we had him. So keep an eye on him. But I'm a bit worried about how the doggies are going to go long term because obviously they're up and about right now. But as some of the young guys you mentioned start to tire out, Tommy Boyd's not going to kick bags of goals every week. They might slow down, maybe. I don't know. But the one guy I do like is Luke Dalhouse. He bounced back this week, got a ton, 24 touches, pretty much playing pure midfield now. So he's one to keep in mind for your forward line.
For sure.
Let's have a look at the Tigers.
Fitzy, this
Magpies.
game was the only time I've barracked for Collingwood because a few Richmond supporters and I just hate Jack Rewalt.
Fair enough.
Just
I hope
when
he doesn't watch our show. He'll be disappointed.
Oh, I don't care.
He'll be very sad.
He can call in and abuse us.
All right, we'll get
just
Jack
the
on
way
the
he
phone.
celebrated it. He just celebrates way too much. He's too cocky for mine. But Delidio back in form. Fitzy 30 touches, 13 marks, 10 contested possessions. Kicked a couple of goals late too, which were crucial. Cochin went big. He had the old garbage. Well, probably wasn't garbage because it was only a 5-point win, but he scored a lot. He had a big last quarter. Scored a lot of his points in the last quarter. So. Greg Fitzy has those big games occasionally, but obviously he has those really bad games as well.
Bit of a Richmond whipping boy, I think Greggy is.
So Hooley turned up again, Fitzy, Rance, Rewalt, obviously kicked the 4. Mind you, Alex Rance went at 95% efficiency.
Yeah.
So, but Marriage, Fitzy, 139. I'm glad he's in my team, so... He had 34 hit-outs, went at 75% efficiency.
Sausage roll.
16 disposals. So he celebrated quite excitingly when he kicked that goal too. Yeah. Dusty, obviously he played on Swan. He started off pretty well, Dusty, and then sort of went a bit quiet, went missing as he usually does.
Went missing when the points were in the balance during the third quarter, I think he did. So.
But other than that, for the Tigers, it was pretty good win by them. They needed to win, but so did Collingwood, Fitzy, and only the 1 ton from the Pies, 130 from Swanee.
The man that matters.
At his best. So, big issue though we've got Fitzy, and it hasn't really been spoken about much, but Scott Penderry was limping towards the end of that game, and I would not be surprised if he doesn't play this week. But just keep an eye out. He played forward towards the end. Yep. He did still go at 84% efficiency, so... that's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think
from the great man.
He's had the moon boot on at different stages of the season, and that's been pretty well known. I reckon he went in for scans on his ankle about a month ago, so I wouldn't be surprised. It's not going to be like a long-term lingering injury, I wouldn't think, but it might be one he just needs a week off. But it's it's going to be a big game up on the Gold Coast if the Suns get a few players back. Obviously, the Pies are completely hit and miss at the moment. If he doesn't play in that game, it could be him for a very long time.
Another one Fitzy too is Jordan De Goey. He's 200k. He's on the bubble this week. He did score 88, and from when I watched the second half, and he was in the contest, he was in there trying to win the ball, so he wasn't scared of going in and getting the ball. So if Bucks keeps him out of the vest and keeps him in the team, I reckon he'd be worth it for 200k.
Maybe.
Like, he is a bit expensive, but if he's like your third midfielder. On the bench, he's only got to sit there as a backup, and he might make you 150k, 100k, because they've got to start playing these guys, especially when like Swan and that won't be too. They've only got a few years left in them. So
that's it. I think the thing you're going to get with De Goey or De Goey is that, because he's a high draft pick, you think like his scoring potential is probably going to be a little bit higher than, like a Vandenberg or... Vandenberg's got a couple of good scores, but he's also got a couple of, he got 30 on the weekend. So his basement is pretty low. Whereas a guy like De Goey, he led the game in tackles. He had 9 tackles. If he's sort of having a bad day and he gets 60, that might be what you're paying for. Now, we probably haven't seen enough of him to sort of know that for sure, but that's sort of what you're paying a little bit extra for. So definitely through the buy rounds, he could be very handy coverage. But sadly, he's got the bye that he shares with Fife and Pendlebury and Kennedy and all the same guys. So I'm not looking at him myself. I don't actually mind if you want a midfielder this week. Corey Ellis from Richmond might be one to look at as well. He was I think went number 14 in the draft last year, so Richmond's number 1 pick. They've got a history of playing their kids too, so he might be one to look at if you look for a downgrade this week. But probably a pass for me on De Goey, but I think your scoring potential from him is going to be better than, like I said, Vandenberg or to some extent maybe even Miller, who might drop off a bit. So maybe give him a look.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about Delidio really quickly, Gracie, because he had a huge game, as you mentioned, 130 points, back in form. His break-even this week's going to be pretty big, so you might be able to get him at around 490k in a fortnight. Would you look at him, or is that the injury going to linger?
Mid, is he?
He's a forward, yeah.
Maybe. I've already got Dusty, so
yep.
10, like you've said before, with having 2 Sydney players in your forward line, I don't know if I'd want 2 Richmond players, because if they have a bad game, the whole team has a bad game.
It's just uncomfortable, isn't it, having 2 from the one team in the same line?
Even though I've got Stevie J and Selwood in my midfield at the moment.
Yeah,
but,
true.
I
don't know.
I don't like it. I'd rather have like a Pavlich, or I've still got Pavlich and Buddy to bring in. There's still Goddard there for me, so I'd probably pass on Delidio.
Yeah, well, he's what has he had, a calf injury, I think, and those things can linger.
Calf.
He's got the old man calf injury, so he's already missed a few games. He came back, then he went out again, so I think that might linger. But I reckon with guys like you mentioned, Goddard and Franklin, these guys are a bit more durable. I'd be leaning towards them, but. One game to go, Gracie. The last game of the round, probably the upset of the round, just about.
It's ridiculous.
Bloody Lions over the
I couldn't believe it. I swear at half time they switched jumpers and Port and Brisbane jumpers.
But just awful.
Fitzy, it was Dane Beams. We know he's a superstar. Pulled a ripper game out, 32 touches, 12 contested possessions. Kicked a goal, had a couple of free kicks as well. So Rich bounced back from his poor week the previous week, Fitzy.
Gun. What a gun.
Mitch Robertson kicked 3. Josh Green almost turned up as well. He kicked 3 goals as well. Yeah. So it was sort of a bit of coming of age of the young Lions.
Bit of belief building up.
Yeah, so Zorko and Rockcliffe were pretty quiet. Rockcliffe had 91, so he had 19 touches, 9 tackles, 10 contested possessions.
Yep.
He only went at 63% efficiency. Once he gets another full game into him, I think this week I calculate if he gets 100 this week, he'll go up $8,000.
Mm-hmm.
If Cripps gets 100 this week, if he plays, he'll go up to 455.
Yep.
So you go up about
straight
20.
Swap.
Not 445. So you go up about 15k. 10k difference next week.
Beautiful. That's
Cripps
what we want.
To Rockcliffe.
Perfect.
So I'd let Rockcliffe have another game and see how he goes against the Bombers this week. So.
I think so too. I think no rush to get him in. Give him another week. I reckon have another look at him. Yep. I think you've got to get him in. I mean, look, he might only average 110 from here, not the 130 from last year. But I think at his price, you're paying, $450,000 for a guy who started the year at 700,000. So I think he's just a no-brainer. Get him in at all costs. But do it next week. I think is going to be smarter.
Definitely. For the power, Robbie Gray was on fire as always. He was pretty much the only bloke trying for Port Adelaide on the weekend.
As usual.
So 25 touches, 10 tackles, 17 contested possessions, kicked a goal. Does everything. So he'd be up there for a Brownlow medal. Smoky, Fitzy. Other tons, Wingard and Monfrey's turned up. Cracker as well. Fitzy, a good cash cow. Went at 82% efficiency there. So he's using the ball very well. And I think he's pretty much secured his spot. Until they get a full side back anyway, so
absolutely.
At least until after the bye, he'll crack 400k. I reckon
he'll get close.
He'll be 360.
Yeah, he'll crack 400k, will he?
Yeah,
I like that one.
Yeah,
but he's been playing fantastic, and now he's in the position. I think over the last month or so, he got a couple of 80s, and now he's got a ton. So I'm going to start putting him on the field. I reckon back him in. He's looked really good. He's at home in that Port side, so feel pretty confident putting him in.
Yeah, so. Well, that's it, Fitzy. That's all the games covered. So, if you've got any questions, tweet us, Facebook us. Like our posts, send us questions. We'll answer them. And,
we will.
Good luck for the rest of the week, and we'll see you later in the week with our preview to round 8.
And let's talk trades and rookies, because this is going to be a problem this week.
Yes.
So we'll cover that.
All right. Catch you later.
Hooroo.